Friday, and we're back. Put your questions in the chat, folks. Oh, we're back. It's Friday, folks, and it's the Friday Night Forum. Why, hello.
What's up? We just aged ourselves. We dated ourselves right there. It's Friday.
It is. It's Friday. All right. I guess I should turn the music down just a little bit.
Why not? We can just have a party. I can dance.
Okay. All right, folks. It's Friday. We're back. And put your questions in the chat. Anybody? Buyers, sellers, realtors, real estate agents. We are here for you. Pretty much anybody. Yes, pretty much anybody.
Right now.
So, hello, everybody. Welcome to the Friday Night Forum, where we answer your real estate questions live. We've got a few things actually to talk about today. But again, if you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the chat. But right off the bat, let's see here. Let's just go right into a market update since we are at the beginning of May. So we can kind of give you guys an idea of where we're at. I'm sure you guys are familiar with what we've been talking about pretty much every time we do a market update. But let's see here. Let's get right to it.
Let's get right to the mess.
Right to it, right?
Yep.
Right to it. Hampden County, folks. So, does this look any different than what you were expecting?
No, not at all, actually.
Not at all.
No.
All right. So we'll go right over these numbers, folks. Again, if you have any questions, put them in the chat. But just looking at the 5-year history, we do this fairly often, pretty much every episode, I guess you could call it. And we look at a comparison of the day of the show versus that day every year for the past 5 years. So this is actually our numbers as of about an hour ago. This is in Hampden County, Massachusetts. And, you know, if for any of you that have been watching and you see us pull these numbers, we have these available for pretty much anywhere. I mean, Massachusetts, we can get access stuff into Connecticut as well. We just like to use Hampden County because that's where we do a lot of business as our primary market review here. But just going back, as you can see today, right now in Hampden County, we've got 256 homes that are still available on the market. The same day last year, 496. So you had almost twice the number of houses available last year, same day versus today. Go back to 2019, we're pretty much almost tripling that. I mean, close. And 696 back in 2018, 779 in 2017, 908. So as we've been talking, there's not much inventory available out there for buyers, which is a great thing for sellers because obviously there's tons and tons of demand, and those basic rules of supply and demand, right? Lots of demand, not much supply. What happens? Prices go up.
Yeah.
This is what happens. Yeah.
This is what happens.
So a couple of other things that we want to review with you guys. So just the average days on the market is down. We're down to 101 right now in Hampden County. The average listing price right now is up to $390,000, which is versus $350 last year, $324 in 2019. 294 in 2017. Our absorption rate right now is 142%, which I know we've talked about this before. Anything over 100% is always crazy, which means it's less than a month.
Yeah, there's 42. Oh my god.
Yeah, there's less than a month of supply of inventory in all of Hampden County. So if no new houses come on the market at all at the rate of sale, everything's going to be gone in pretty much 3 weeks. All right, so that just kind of gives you an idea of the seriousness of the situation. Now, year to date, some people talk about, oh, there's no houses because no one's listing. People are listing. All right. So we've taken 1,509 new listings since the beginning of this year. Same time last year, we were at 1,516. Years before that, yeah, we were closer to 1,800, but we're not talking about a significant drop from what we saw last year. And then let's head on down to units sold. We've sold 1,180 single families in Hampden County year to date. Last year, same time, we had only sold 1,051. All right, so we are selling.
Yeah, I mean, it's important to know, right? In 2020, this is May 7th.
Yeah.
We were just a couple months into COVID.
About a month.
Yeah, and it really, you can see the difference in the number
month and
there.
a half.
Yeah.
That is something actually we have noticed, right? So you had that, there was anything that closed around, I think I want to say March, April, May, June-ish.
Yeah.
I would say it was like right after, COVID kind of hit. We had a bunch of people freeze for a moment. And then everyone started rushing back out there after a couple months. So if you go back and look at the monthly sales, yes, you do kind of see that. But looking back at the average, again, what we're seeing right now, average sale price 271,000. In terms of what has actually sold. Okay, so versus last year, 232. I mean, what are we talking about? Almost a $40,000 difference in the average sale price because of what's changed with supply and demand. And then this number here, which I always think is insane here. The average sale price of listing price, that's 101.82%, right? So on average, people are getting over 100% for the whatever that is that they're asking for the house. And then this includes houses that, need rehab and have even sold for less than the asking price. So a good portion of these houses that are actually selling far above the, what it is that they're actually asking.
You don't have to tell me that.
Yeah, I don't have to tell you that, right?
Yeah.
But those of you out there who are watching, you're the ones we're trying to educate. We're trying to educate you. Okay.
We've been saying this for weeks now.
Sorry. So this is another interesting one. If we're looking back, units sold. So this is a 12-month look back. So today, going back 12 months, we've sold 4,372 properties in Hampden County, whereas this same time last year, the 12 months prior, we sold 4,172, 4232, 4115, and 3925. So we're selling slightly more houses again than we were before. But it's just, that's partly because there's not enough houses to meet the demand. So it's kind of like this bottleneck, right? You got a ton of people out there trying to buy this stuff. And there's just not enough houses, for them. As I'm sure you can, attest to this, Arlene. I mean, how often are you in multiple offer situations with buyers?
It'd be easier to tell you how often I am not in multiple offer situations.
I can think of one recent situation where I wasn't in a multiple offer situation. And because of that, we were able to get the house for less than the asking price and get a closing cost credit. And we got a new chimney. We got plumbing work. We got electrical work. We had a lot of stuff done in this house. And that was because of the situation, right? And so sometimes it is that, finding that house is kind of overpriced or that's been sitting on the market for a while, and then targeting that property to see what a realistic offer could be, maybe, right? If a house is on the market, the seller obviously wants to sell, or at least you would think so, right?
You would hope so.
Right? You hope so.
Yeah.
But you know, it just, if it's still on the market, there's got to be some reason. It's either, you know, condition or price, right? And if it's some sort of conditional issue, that can be resolved by adjusting the price, right? All right, so let's take a look at another market here. We've got Springfield.
Before we move on, it's like the least competition that I've encountered this year was we were one of two offers. That was the least competition.
At least.
Yeah, I have not come across a house where we were the only one.
How many times or how often have you been in a situation where there was more than 20 offers?
Man, a few times. Usually it's between like 8 to 16 offers, I would say. 20 is like, holy crap. But
Yep.
yeah, it's usually I would say average 8 to 10, but it's usually between like 8 to 16.
Yeah, I've been in a couple of them recently where there was 30 plus offers.
My goodness. Yeah.
30 plus. And we're not even talking about like, you know, really low priced house. You know, we're talking, you know, $300,000 property. You know, that there's, you know, 30 people offering more than the asking price, and, you know, 29 of them are not getting a house.
Yeah.
Right. And so,
Think about that.
yeah, no, that's a tough situation, right? And because those 29 are now offering on the house that comes on the market the next day, and then more buyers are obviously filtering in at the same time.
I don't even ask the agent. I usually just say, how many offers do you have? Usually before it was like, do you have any offers yet? It's like, no, how many do you have? Like, what's my, and then, I mean, once there's more than a few of them, it's like, all right, you just gotta either go way out there with your number or don't even try.
One of the things I've been doing is I've been reaching out to the listing agent before making an offer, and I know they're not going to tell us, you know, what the highest offer is. I mean, unless the seller's allowing them to disclose that, they're just not going to let you know, right? And, you know, because they're protecting the seller's interest. But that doesn't mean they can't tell you some preferred terms, right? Or if there's anything in particular that the seller's looking for in terms of terms, right? Maybe the seller's looking for a certain amount on a deposit. Maybe the seller's looking for a certain closing date, right? Sometimes that's effective. You know, if the seller is contingent upon them finding suitable housing, how flexible does the buyer need to be, or how much flexibility are they looking for with the buyer, right? I actually recently, you know, lost on an offer recently, and it actually came down to the timeline the buyer was willing to wait. My buyer was willing to wait 90 days for the seller to at least identify suitable housing, and it was going to be up to 5 months, you know, for closing. The seller ended up accepting an offer. From what I understand, the buyer gave them an indefinite amount of time to purchase another property, which, you know, I had that conversation with my clients when we go to make the offer, and they're just like, oh yeah, we're willing to wait as long as it takes. And I say, well, what if it takes a year? Are you willing to wait a year? No. No. Well, what if another house comes along that we see, and we don't want to lose out on an opportunity there? And also, well, how long do you wait? But, you know, what if the rates start going up? Right? In terms of your qualifications, you know, what your monthly mortgage payment's going to be might be different in a year from now. And do you really want to be sitting around for a year waiting? You know, so it's one of those things where just because the seller, you know, or just because the buyer says, oh, I'm willing to wait however long, you know, the seller wants, are they really? Right? Are you really? Let's start actually talking serious about this, right? What if it takes them a year, right? More realistically, most of the time, the sellers can find something within 2 to 3 months. I typically find that most sellers, once they get their house under contract, they can be a little bit more aggressive when it comes to actually making offers. And that's usually because they've gotten in a multiple offer situation. They're getting so much more for the house that they're selling, they can now afford to go ahead and offer a little bit more on the house that they're trying to buy, right? And, you know, it even used to be a little bit tougher before with the, you know, the contingency to sell, right? And it used to be that sellers, or I felt it was a lot harder before, but I actually feel like it's not quite as hard these days, because when you're making an offer, and that seller understands that you've probably got 30 people waiting to buy your house, right? And that, the sale of your house probably isn't going to be that tough as it would have been in a buyer's market, right?
Yeah. But my thing for the seller side, though, is if you have a bunch of offers, you have those 30 offers, and the one that you want to take has a contingency to sell the house, why would you take that over somebody that doesn't have that contingency? I mean,
well, if all things are the same, then yeah. But in a buyer's market, you might take an offer that's a few $1,000s less if there's no contingency to sell, right? Whereas in a seller's market, if you got two offers the same, or if you got that contingency to sell is slightly higher, again, that having that contingency doesn't seem as, or at least lately, it just doesn't seem as crazy because there's so many buyers out there willing to buy that house, right? And most of the time, by the time you're making an offer, your house is already under contract.
I get that. I totally.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and you're a strong buyer in the sense of obviously you have this asset to sell. So, but you're also relying on your buyer, qualifying. So you have this extra layer. So if I have 30 offers and one is a conventional loan, 20% down, and then I have a person over here that has a house to sell, they're going way above asking price, but they still have that extra layer of a contingency. I mean, I would go. So
this is what where it comes. This is what you can end up doing is you do your due diligence and you investigate that sale. So I put someone, I have a buyer or a seller that was then buying at the same time the house that we were making the off or purchasing. Obviously they were concerned. We were in a multiple offer situation. Our offer was actually the highest, and then the question is, all right, what about that contingency to sell? So we were able to, with the permission of the buyers from our property, because obviously they want us to get an accepted offer on that house. They were okay with their lender speaking to the listing agent to confirm that this person has already been well qualified. They've already checked their income. They've already verified their credit, right? That the person has more than enough assets, and we were already past a home inspection, right? And so if that listing agent didn't ask any questions, yes, you could be taking a big risk there, because again, you don't know who's that offer they accepted, right? But if you're doing that same due diligence as you're going to do for the buyer of your property, and then again talk to that agent and say, what about your buyer? Let me verify that information, and you're able to get a confident response, then again, what's the concern at that point? Yes, obviously there's more risk. I understand, but if you have that offer with no contingency, yeah, you're probably going to take it. But I'm saying more that scenario where this is just a little bit better, right?
Well, yeah, if you're talking about, and it's not only the seller's buyer, it's the seller too qualifying. So you have two people, unless that seller has all the cash to purchase the house, then yeah, obviously they're not an issue. But the seller likely has to have some sort of financing package as well. So you have to worry about, and you and I both know, and especially I work with a ton of buyers, things happen randomly that can throw a sale off. So
I understand.
Yeah. So you have that first buyer, and then you have the seller having to qualify for financing. To me, even though the seller has more asset, has likely more cash to put into the sale, they're a weaker buyer to me than somebody that just came with that conventional loan, just one person, that's one layer. And then obviously as a listing agent, you would want to dig in to make sure the buyer's well qualified, ask those questions, which I don't know how often that's happening. I don't know.
Yeah.
It seems like some people don't make that extra effort to find, to make sure they're, the person they'll be working with is well qualified, but yeah. That's a whole different conversation.
It is. And I know it's so funny. As soon as you said the extra effort, it triggered something I think I mentioned to you the other day about being the listing agent in a multiple offer situation where you're getting 20 or 30 offers.
Yeah.
If you're a buyer's agent, I'm just letting you know, okay? If you're a buyer's agent, all right, and you're making an offer on a property that's a multiple offer situation, you should, one, make sure that listing agent gets the offer, right? At least contact that agent and say, hey, I'm sending an offer, or hey, I sent you an offer. I want to verify that you've got that. All right. And then 2, when you email an offer, make sure that you reference the property address in the email that you send. I can tell you, I've gotten a number of offers from people where they send you a .loop share and it's got no reference to the address. It's got a buyer's name on there, but let's say I happen to check that email and I mark it as read, right? And then now I'm going to, go through the offers. I go to check my emails, go through, hey, where are all the offers for this property? Your offer could get lost in the mix. And that's only because you didn't take the extra step to properly set up the email. All right. So please do yourself a favor and make sure that your offer can be seen. All right. Because again, you're in a multiple offer situation. There's 20, 30 offers on this property. You don't want to be forgotten about. We've typically really good about then getting back to respond to all the agents. Once we've gotten everything together and the seller actually accepts an offer, we then go and give an email notification to everybody. But again, if you're making an offer, you want to make sure that the agent got it. And I can tell, I love you agents out there that follow up, because you make it easier for me. All right. Shout out to all those agents who are doing that, because it is a tough market right now. And I completely understand how you are making offers over and over again. You're out there showing properties and, you are still at the top of your game. So I want to say thank you to those agents that are doing that. And the ones that aren't doing it, you really need to make sure that you're taking these steps to do these things, because if you want to compete, you need to make sure that you're being seen. Right.
And can I add to that, as a buyer's agent, and I've talked to listing agents about this, is it really makes a difference when you have a good attitude. If you are a jerk to a listing agent or any agent, like that can mess things up for you. And I had a deal that I got under contract, and the agent was so thankful that I was nice. I was on top of it. I got everything he needed. And he's like, that other agent was a disaster to work with. It would have been a disaster to work with. And he was so happy that I did everything so quick, and I was on top of it, that the seller saw me do this. And the seller was like, she's on it. And I'd rather, I don't know if they took a little less or whatever, but they chose our offer over the other one because the way I was working with that agent. And
it's true. It's very true that you, the agent, can be the difference.
Yep.
Right.
Absolutely.
Like multiple offer situation, 2 offers are exactly the same. Right. Let's say they're both using the same lender. Right. And we know because of, fair housing situations, we don't want to be looking at love letters to find out who these buyers are. So you're going to be looking at, well, how can I distinguish this? Right. And if you, as the listing agent, see one agent is super organized and is on top of following up and, hey, let me just explain the offer to you. Just wanted to see if there is anything I can amend on here to make your seller happy. And then you got another offer, which just came in, doesn't even have the property address on it. There's nothing, no explanation. What's the difference?
Yeah.
You're probably going to take the offer of the one that's been presented a certain way. Mm-hmm. All right. So please do yourself a favor, get that stuff set up and properly, and make sure you're connecting with the listing agent that they've got that offer. Yeah.
That is just like the bare minimum you need to do. Follow up on the offer.
All right. Let me go back to the market update. All right. So this is just Springfield. Again, we just did Hampden County, so this is Springfield. Right now, as of about an hour and a half ago, we had 66 houses on the market. Same day last year, 101. Go back to 2017, we had 181 houses available at the time. Average days on the market's down to 177. Right now in Springfield, we have 0.6 months inventory of supply. So we have, again, all the houses will be gone. If no new houses come on the market at the rate of sale that we've got, they'll be gone in just over half a month. Okay. Let's see
It's
here.
important to know for anybody has not heard us before. Normal market balance is 6 to 7 months of inventory. So now we're down to 3 weeks to show you
Less than that.
less than 3 weeks to show the severity of the inventory problem that we have.
Yeah, definitely. So another thing to note, our days on the market is down to 21 versus 60 a few years ago. Our average sale price right now is 223 versus 181 last year and 137 in 2017. Big difference. Anyone that bought within the last 10 years, your houses are worth more, folks. Houses are worth more. And that same percentage, again, on average, properties are selling for at least 102% of the asking price. So houses are selling for more than what people are even asking for. And then looking back at the number of houses that have sold, we've so far in the last 12 months, today minus 12 months, we've sold 1,113 houses in Springfield, which is more than we've sold in the previous 12 months every year in the last 5 years. Okay, so again, we've got more houses that are being bought because there's so many more buyers, and then which then in turn comes down to this number. Again, there's just not much that's available right now. Supply, demand, right? Mm-hmm. All right, hold on here. So one of the things that I wanted to then go over next that this brings me to is historical home values, the median historical home values. So I think this is important to understand, because we have people obviously always, the prices are going to go up or they're going to go down, or, how do I even know what's going to happen? Am I paying too much? And nobody has a crystal ball. I can tell you, nobody has a crystal ball, right? No one can tell you or guarantee to you what's going to happen in the future, but I can show you some stuff, right? And maybe this can give you a little bit of perspective in terms of what it is that we're actually dealing with right now. So this is the median home price index historical median home prices in the United States. And there's two lines that you see on here. So this blue line is the actual historical home values, right? And you can see the prices, went up and up. This is the 70s. The 80s, this was the crash at the end of the 80s, and then it went up. The 90s shot up into about 2008, and then we came down, right? And then at about 2010, 2011, since then, the market has continued to rise, okay? Now, if we adjust for inflation, that's actually this yellow line, okay? What's interesting about when there's an adjustment for inflation, the farther away you get back from the current date, the farther you are in terms of what the actual price was and the adjusted prices. So that's why you see this line kind of slowly get closer together, because there is no adjustment for inflation here because we're looking at today, right? So this just gives you an idea, again, adjusted for inflation, what the values of homes were over that period of time. We can see that peak in the same where the market did come down. And again, we can see that we are, risen again. We have been coming up in terms of prices for the last few years. And again, now this is the median historical home prices. As you can see, typically, historically, the prices are going up, right? And then when we talk about just the basic idea of supply and demand, our population has been rising. I believe we're estimated, and I could be wrong on this number. I want to say it's 7 million new households in the next 10 years or next 5 to 10 years. So we're talking about 7 million new families or households that are going to be in the market, right? And we have not been building houses, for a number of years, right? And I think we even, there was a graph I wanted to show up, and I don't have it in front of me, but it shows our housing build. We were building, then we just stopped, right? And if you look at it by decade, the last decade from 2010 to 2020, we built like 25% of the houses that we did the decade before that, and then the decade before that. So, because we didn't keep up that pace, we built too much at a certain point, right? Then just stopped. And then the demand, as you can see here, just kept coming up. This is when we stopped building, right here, right? And then since then, it's just been going up. And now we're trying to build, but because of all the stuff that's been going on, as you know, it's getting way more expensive right now. Way more expensive to build. Just on the cost of the material alone, a house that's being built today is about $25,000 to $30,000 more than it was a year ago. And we're not talking about design difference. We're not talking about difference in land or taxes or anything like that. We're just talking about the wood, the siding, the nails. I mean, this is the stuff we're talking about, just basic supplies. And, you guys, you've probably seen a piece of, 2x4s are like 10 times what they used to be. I think a piece of plywood was up to like $60, just like a week ago. It's ridiculous.
It's insane right now.
Yeah, I mean, it might, I wonder if it would get to a point where some houses that need rehab are worth more in what they're made out of than what they are, right? You just start stripping a house apart and just selling the wood, selling all the pieces.
You shouldn't say that. People do weird. We're gonna start seeing that.
Hey, right? That would be crazy if you started seeing that.
House is worth more in pieces.
It's worth more in pieces than it is whole. I mean, well, think about it. There was a house in Springfield that just got listed for $30,000. I'm sure it needed work, but I wonder if there's $30,000 in wood. Yeah, man. Especially if the price of the materials went up by that much in the last year. Okay, wow. So this is
that's legit. I'm gonna have to look at a house that's like $30,000 and see what it would cost in materials. Maybe that's how you start investing.
Yeah, but what happens is they'll probably get you in the labor to rip it apart.
I got a sledgehammer. I can
right. Just make that your full-time job, right? Yeah. Just all I'm gonna do all day.
It depends on how much money. I got a lot of aggression. I could get a hammer. I could do it.
and then just flip the empty lot at the end with the foundation. There you go.
I think we could do that. I think that's a good thing to look into.
All right. So this was the historical.
Look what James put down.
That is true. That is true. It is probably going to sell for $80,000. That is true. But if I could sell the materials for $100,000. Yeah, it might be $100,000 in materials.
Yeah. Gonna have to look into this. We may have found a new business scheme.
A new business plan. It'll be like the copper craze after the market crash in 2008 around here. We had so many, because the value of copper went up. People were going into these properties and stealing the plumbing and then selling it at the scrap yards and getting hundreds and thousands, not hundreds of thousands, but hundreds and sometimes thousands of dollars, for trading in this material. I remember at one point some people had like the bigger, copper pipes going through. Yes, chased people out of basements, and they got pretty professional too. But there was sometimes the inspectors be like, "Oh, that pipe right there is just like worth $1,000 worth of copper right there," just because of the size of the pipe and how much there was. And some of these older houses, it was worth it for some of these owners to kind of get rid of the copper. All right, so this is that median, home price. Again, historical values, we can see that. All right, now the other thing I wanted to share with you is there we go. So this is the housing affordability. Okay, so the housing affordability index. Now what's important about this is that we do talk about, the prices are going up, so that houses aren't affordable anymore. Now what this is, the housing price index, or the housing affordability index. What this does is it looks at the median price of houses versus like what the estimated payment is versus what the median income is for the average family now. And then they come up with a score. All right. Now, when you first look at it, this is the score that's important, is this one on this right hand column, right? And the easiest way to explain that is that the higher the score, the more affordable houses are, right? And that's when you consider what people make versus what houses are actually selling for. Okay. And then they consider, again, not just their income, not just the purchase price, but also what it costs to borrow the money. Right. And then this is based on assuming that the person puts 20% down. Hold on here. And that the mortgage itself is not more than 25% of your debt to income ratio. All right. And because they got to pick some sort of number in order to do this. And really, that number doesn't quite matter. It's what's great about it is when you compare it to other years. So if you're using that same formula for everyone, then you can compare it to whether or not houses are more affordable now versus before. Right now, let's say this 146 that you have here. Right. What that refers to is that the average people that are our average family right now with the income, they have 146% of the income needed in order to purchase a median priced house. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So if the number was 100, that means I have the exact amount of money I need in order to qualify for a median priced house. Now, if that number is less than 100, that means I don't make enough in order to qualify for that house. So anything over 100 means you have more than enough money. So this 146 back in 2018, right? Based on the income, based on the rate, based on, again, what the prices were, people had about 146% of the income needed in order to purchase a property. In 2019, they had 159% of the income in order to purchase a property. In 2020, they had 170% of the income to purchase a property, right? So this tells you the houses are still affordable, right? And technically, they've actually gotten more affordable than they were before. Now, if you are on a fixed income and the prices are going up, yes, this doesn't necessarily apply to you. This is nationally as a whole when you're considering qualifying income and what the actual incomes were, because back in 2018 the median income was only $76,000, and as you can see in 2020 the median income was up to $84,000. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. All right, so what's nice is that we can always also look at different areas, right? And Northeast, which is our area, right? So this month, as of right now, we're at 170. About a month ago, 175, and a year ago it was 183 this month. All right, and so we can even look at February, 173. January, right here. This is crazy to even say. From what I can tell, January of 2021 has been the most affordable houses have ever been, according to the affordability index. Now, you're thinking, well, you only got a couple years here. All right, let's look what we got here. This goes back to 1989. Okay, back in 89, we were at 102%, and as you can see, we continued to rise. All right, 130s. 115 right before the market was going down. Houses were becoming unaffordable. All right.
We got 20.
We're up to 2012. This is up to 2019. Yep. 2012. Yeah, it was up to 193. Oh, you know what? I missed that one. So that does beat us. That did beat us. Okay. But
still, if you think about what was going on then.
Do you know when that was though? That was right here.
Yeah, that was the lowest point. So houses were rock bottom.
They were most affordable right there, but they're still very affordable when you compare them to before when the market was down, right? Mm-hmm. So again, we're going back before that, 110, 120s, 130s. I've got nothing higher than that. And going back to 89, you were down at 102. We've been in the 150s, 160s, and then if we're looking at our current affordability, hold on, am I looking at the wrong one here? Yeah. This is what we're at right now. Again, 170, 773.
can we attribute January's being so affordable to the interest rates?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So typically, yeah. And that's that conversation we've had before, right? So prices are going up, but because the rates are so low, houses are actually more affordable, right? And then when you consider the fact that the median income is a little bit different than what it was before, it just shows you, it's kind of like that adjustment for inflation, right? Once you make these adjustments for the changes that are happening in the economy and the changes that are happening just nationally, you can see that for the, median, for that person that's kind of in that middle or in that range, it's still affordable for them. Now, this does include, pretty much everyone. I do know that there is a separate index for first-time home buyers. And it is a little bit less affordable for first-time home buyers right now. And that's just because, first-time home buyers typically are younger. Typically, they're not making quite as much money. And because the market is a little higher up there, it's just a little bit harder for them to get in there because, as you know, we've talked about this before, people just aren't, taking offers with low down payments, if you're getting credits back and stuff like that. And a lot of times those first time home buyers are the ones that are in those situations, right? Mm-hmm. So they're just not quite winning out the same. But I thought that the affordability index was kind of an eye opener.
Right. It is. It definitely is.
Yeah, no, it is. I mean, if you're talking about this with your clients, realtors, right? This is a tool that you can use in order to educate them in terms of what they're doing. People always get scared and when you see prices go up, they always want to compare it to another time when prices were going up. And right now, obviously it's when the Great Recession, right? When the market crashed after 2008. But this is a completely different scenario in terms of what we're dealing with now versus what we were dealing with then, right? Houses are still way more affordable right now than what they were then, right? And again, going back to, 2012, at that time, this is 115, right? So people can afford their properties. And as we've had this conversation before, people are able to, are the most qualified buyers are purchasing right now, right? Whereas in 2008, when we had a lot of those sales going on, a lot of buyers were getting credits back. A lot of people were doing 100% financing. A lot of people were using grants, and they weren't necessarily putting money into the sale. And so when they, got into trouble, they didn't necessarily have the financial stability to continue to move through that. And then the other big thing about that is we had those adjustable interest rates.
Oh yeah.
We don't have that now. When you got into a house and you got qualified based on that payment and you were maxed out, and then when your payment went up and your income didn't, how are you going to afford that extra increase in payment? A lot of those loans were done with the assumption that you're going to be making more money in 2 years, right? Or, don't worry about it for 2 years.
Well, yeah. I mean, when I did the research on that time period, it was just, when I talked about it on my Monday show there, I was like, they increased the interest rate so quickly on buyers within a short amount of time. Buyers, like, even if they were getting paid more, even if, when you're thinking about getting a pay raise, that they don't happen like every other month. They happen maybe once a year, every other year. So when they went from 1% variable introductory rate to 6.5% in 2 years, like I can't even imagine. I saw why people lost their houses. And then you look at it and it's like, how did people not know this was going to happen? You increased the rates like this. How did nobody predict that the market was going to crash? It was just like, it seemed like people were like, oh, the market is crashing. It's like, you did it to yourselves. What are you doing? I don't know. Hindsight.
No. And I don't think the lenders lost, right? I mean, I think the people that were lost out were the people that bought.
Yeah.
Right? Even though, all those, again, remember, they were giving out so many loans and, no document stuff. I mean, there was, I'm sure there were banks that knew this was going to happen.
They all knew it was going to happen. You could stumble into a bank drunk and be like, I want to buy a house. And they'd be like, sign here. We got you.
And they knew,
you know, they had to.
Yeah. And then when you got things like insurance and stuff like that, I mean, we all saw, you know, the different things that happened. You know, the lenders never lost out. All right. They, you know, the house always wins. Right.
Yeah. Because guess what happens? They don't pay the rent. The bank keeps the house. I mean, they have the asset. So what are they losing?
What are they losing? All right. So now what are we going to do about this? Yes, they were insured. That's right. So this, they were insured. We saw lenders that would hold on to houses, you know, for a certain period of time and not foreclose on them because they knew they were going to collect at some point. And it was cheaper for them to not maintain these houses, to not maintain. I mean, I knew multiple people that, you know, short sailed their house and multiple people that were in situations where they didn't pay their mortgage for years. Now, if you stop paying your mortgage in this market because there's so much equity, you know, you stop paying your mortgage for, you know, a certain period of time, the bank's going to they're going to foreclose because they see that there's money there to be made, right? Whereas with, you know, in that market, we had lenders that didn't want to foreclose until the right time, right? And because if they foreclosed on the house, they weren't going to be able to sell it and they were going to have to maintain it for a year or 2 years, whatever the scenario was. So it was cheaper for them not to foreclose and let you sit in your house for free for however number of years. And then, you know, wait until, you know, it actually had to be done, or just short sale it, which was even better for them because they didn't have to maintain the property till it was sold. And then they collected the insurance on it, on the shortage. Right. Yeah.
I remember when I first started, I asked you, we had this conversation where I was like, there's all these houses that are foreclosed on, but they're not hitting the market. They were just sitting there. So, and I remember asking you, like, why would the banks hold on to these assets when they could just sell them? And you told me that if all the houses that were foreclosed on hit the market, they would not have much value because there'd be so much inventory that they couldn't sell them for. So it was a strategy for the banks to only list a few houses at a time because if they didn't want to lower the price of all the houses all around. I thought that was interesting. Yeah. I'm like, that's, you know, you think that you just want to get rid of the house, but they know what they're doing and they never lose.
And they never lose. So there is a good question on here. Historically, what comes next after such a bold seller's market? And quite honestly,
that's hard to answer.
I don't know. It's hard to answer right now because we've never been in such a bold seller's market. We've never been in a situation where the inventory has been this low, or that's even weird to understand because when I say inventory has never been this low, but there's houses coming on the market. So it's just that the number of available homes has never been this low. And in reality, the better statement is to say that the demand has never been this high compared to the number of available homes. We've never ever seen this. Now, we could try to, you know, say, oh, well, you know, of course, what goes up must come down, right? My suspicion is, in terms of what we're dealing with right now, is that, you know, we're not going to have an 08 where, you know, we were like, whoop. No, we're probably going to have more of a leveling off. You know, that perhaps means that we've got some slight dipping, but probably more of a leveling off. And the reason I say that is you've got so many buyers, right, that they're almost like a safety net when you think about it, right? Your property's not going to come down to the point because so many buyers are trying to eat at it. Before it comes down, they're going to be offering on that thing, right? And so, yes, maybe let's say the prices do come down a little bit. You're telling me that with the number of buyers out there now and with the amount of inventory that we're typically seeing right now, how would the prices come down? How would?
And if you think about who's buying houses right now, who statistically is buying the most houses right now?
Who?
Millennials. I can't even say it. But we're just starting to really, we haven't peaked out with millennials yet. So we still have we're the biggest generation right now. And we haven't even hit our peak. So more buyers are just going to flood the market. But like to go with what you were saying is our market naturally just ebbs and flows. It does this. So we're not going to see, we're not going to see the crash because the circumstances were different then. Mm-hmm. But I do see the leveling off. I see a little dip. I do see, I don't know when the dip is going to happen. I predict that a few years from now, dip we're talking about like a few $1,000s. I don't see it like a dramatic dip, but the market goes up and down. That's just how it works.
It does. Now, NAR, our chief economist, Lawrence Yun, last year he did a presentation, and I believe we've got another one coming up soon. But last year's presentation, based on everything that was happening, based on what they could potentially forecast, their expectation is that the market was going to continue this way for at least 2 to 5 years before it started to level off. And obviously that's a big range, 2 years to 5 years, right? Who knows? And it could potentially continue to go depending on what happens in the economy and just happens all over in the space. I mean, quite frankly, technology could come along and disrupt the market in a way that we're not expecting. One of the things that I'm interested in is printed houses. That's a new technology coming along where they're doing new ways of building that are going to be cheaper and that maybe not so cheap at the moment, but as the technology develops and gets better, we may start to see other options available out there right now. Right now, the other thing here, the other thing is that, again, it's that whole supply and demand thing, right? So unless we have a whole bunch of buyers fall out of the market, right? And the only way, the buyers, I think at this point are going to fall out of the market is if way more people, lose their jobs, right? Or way more people fall out of employment, which again, not seeing anything at the moment that, could potentially, cause that. Obviously, we didn't have a crystal ball for what happened last year, but that didn't even have, the same effect in terms of the number of buyers out there that we were actually expecting, right?
Yeah.
And then on the other end of it, unless we see massive amounts of houses coming out on the market or a massive amounts of houses being built, right? How can that supply and demand, shift?
And we had that conversation. If we started building now, like we started getting hot again building, it would still take a couple years to even be close to catching up to anything.
Yeah, it would. And that's a problem. That is a problem. Now, it is a problem to not build and to not do anything. So what is being done? Right. And so there are some things that are happening, in the I guess I should say the political space or, national space. There are some efforts being made. And I guess we can start off with a couple of things that are coming up. So in this, well, I guess the first one's not really so much for increasing supply. And this one, I don't know. I mean, some people don't like this anyways because they feel like it's increasing demand. But the Biden tax credit for first-time home buyers, right? Now, this is actually also going to be for first-generational buyers, not just first-time home buyers. So if your parents owned a property, you're not going to be able to qualify for this. But if your parents didn't own a property, or if they got foreclosed on or short sale the property before, you could qualify for this type of grant. It's going to be $15,000 to $25,000 if this gets passed. All right. Now, again, that's really for buyers, but there are a couple of things being done in order to increase supply, the number of houses available out there. And then if you guys, if everyone here hears about this stuff coming along, speak to your legislators, right? Say, hey, support this. Okay. So right now they're talking about doing a tax credit for current property owners. Okay, so again, they're looking to increase the supply of houses on the market, and they want to make sure that these properties are move-in ready, right? They're not really looking to increase the supply of just like rehab or any type of house on the market. So right now they're talking about doing a tax credit for people who currently own, right? And then you'd be able to use this tax credit or this credit in order to do upgrades to your property and then sell it, right? So you get the money to be able to do the upgrades, and then as long as you sell the property, you get that tax credit, right? Now, if somebody is not sure, they're kind of uneasy about selling their house right now because it's just not in that right condition. Now, if they could get, some funds in order to put it in the condition where they could really maximize and take advantage of the current market, I think that would be great for inventory, right? That could definitely incentivize a couple sellers to get their houses on the market that weren't planning on or just couldn't do it quite yet because maybe they don't have the funds to get the house in that same condition, right?
PSA on that one.
What?
If you're somebody that's not sure what needs to be done to the house in order to sell it, contact a realtor and we'll tell you what's worth putting your money into. Not all upgrades are worth doing. You don't want to put in a $40,000 kitchen and then get $20,000 in return. It might not be worth it. So contact your realtor.
Yeah, there are certain things that are going to maximize the presentation of the house. So you don't always want to just go ahead and just start upgrading everything.
Yeah,
right?
just don't spend thousands of dollars willy-nilly and contact.
I'm going to get some gold leaf wallpaper and I'm lining it all. No, don't do that.
And this is something that we do without we don't charge to do that. We'll walk into your house and we'll say, these are the things you can do. And we hope to list your house, but we don't charge for stuff like that.
That is the goal is to help you with the sale. Yeah. But realtors, we're problem solvers, right? And we do so much. We don't just sell the house. We guide you through the whole process, so there's lots of different things involved with that. All right. So another one that's coming along that they're talking about. So right now they're talking about doing grants for commercial properties to convert them to residential spaces.
Yes. We need that. We need that.
Yes. So we're talking factories, industrial use properties, maybe malls, like the Eastfield Mall in Springfield. They're talking about putting, adult living facilities in there, right? So you could actually have efficiency apartments and stuff like that in a space like that, And you talk about in the years past, we had this big push on smart growth, smart neighborhood, smart building, and basically building out lifestyles where you can walk to everything, that you don't necessarily have to drive to places, so you could definitely see a lifestyle change if we start to see some of these spaces get converted into residential use, right? And it's kind of like a two-pronged approach here because of what happened last year, we saw a big shift from office use to work at home. Right. And they're actually saying that many companies, I think it's about 25%, are keeping the stay-at-home model. Right. So you have less use of these office spaces. So then what's going to happen to those properties? Right. We've got this problem over here where we can't use these, no use. And then we've got this issue over here where we don't have enough. How about we solve this problem with this problem? Right?
Let's start investing. Let's do this.
Let's solve this problem with this problem.
Let's solve this problem now.
Yeah. So you can, as a again, if this gets through, as a commercial property owner, you'd be able to apply for a grant. And grants are different from loans, folks. If you fit all the criteria, you don't gotta pay it back. All right. So this is a great incentive for anyone out there that knows somebody with some type of commercial space. Now, depending on how this gets passed, again, we don't know what the exact details are yet, or if it will get passed, but we're keeping fingers crossed if this stuff is actually going to happen. Now, the other one that's happening right now is that there is grant funds available for actual cities and towns for this as well, and that's in order for them to create affordable housing. Okay, so in order to create more units, whatever that means. Okay, now this is all national stuff on a federal level that these things are happening. Now, right now in Massachusetts, the Realtor Association lobbied pretty hard in order to get what's the housing choice bill. All right, and then what this is, and you know what it is. I know you know what it is, but I'm going to explain to everybody else. So what this is this offers the opportunity for cities and towns in order to adopt new rules when it comes to zoning change approvals. At the moment, you actually have to have a two-thirds vote approval for making zoning changes. So a lot of times you may have a new idea, or they want to bring in some sort of project, or let's do a affordable housing, a complex or project, whatever it is. And if 34% of the people don't want it, then it doesn't happen, right? Whereas if the town adopts these new rules, as long as the majority of the people want it, then it can happen, right? And so those types of things will hopefully help alleviate this supply issue. Now, that's not it's solved today type of issue, because even though that got passed this year, all the cities and towns still need to adopt this, right? So, anybody who's listening here, if you think there's a housing shortage in your area, and I can tell you there is,
if you
think there's a housing shortage in your area, you should contact your legislator, or not your legislators, your town, about bringing this up at a town meeting. Hey, can we get this approved? Can we get this passed? Because we need more housing. Hey, we could do more development in our area. And then the same thing with these other federal bills. If these end up getting passed and there's a, commercial complex, maybe you could combine multiple grants. You can combine the affordable housing grant for your city along with the grant for commercial properties in order to do new developments and provide more housing to more people in your areas. Right now, as part of the housing choice bill, there is a portion that's already approved into it, and this is when it comes to accessory dwelling units. So an accessory dwelling unit is like an in-law apartment or an in-law house, because you can actually put another property on your property, and that's considered an accessory dwelling as opposed to a two-family. Right now, there is certain usage or ways that you're actually allowed to use it, but right now it's already you just need 50% plus one in order to get that approval change, for your property. So if anybody's out there now is thinking like, hey, maybe buying isn't the right scenario. I have a house. Maybe I can't afford to go somewhere else, but I'm trying to get a scenario where I've gotten a parent, or maybe a different scenario where you are a parent and your kid can't find a place to buy. Perhaps you combine forces and you build an accessory unit on your property, right? You can get pretty creative with some of these things, and especially when we see a lot of people buying multifamilies, right? You got a lot of buyers that are looking for multifamilies, and they're looking to live there with the family member, right? Yeah, I say that all the time. Most of my multifamily occupied buyers, their plan is to have a family member live in the other unit, and because that's just a lifestyle that's actually been happening more than what we've seen in years past, right? Now, since we're kind of talking about some of the stuff that's happening nationally. Let me see here. There is something I wanted to bring up, and that is you read that the eviction moratorium just got shot down. Yeah. So this and this is even, I wonder if this would increase some supply. If you're in scenarios where landlords are now going to be able to start evict people for non-payment. And because, as you've known, there's been a lot of people who want to sell their multifamily house, but they can't because it's fully occupied. Right. Now, typically, once you had a buyer that's going to live in that, they're going to ask for one of the units to be vacated. Now, if you can request someone, to vacate that unit, when you're looking for possession, when you're going to sell the house. But because of, the eviction moratorium, a lot of people fell under, protection. And for the right reason. Obviously, we know that protection is definitely needed because of what happened last year. But because now that's gone away, you may see some landlords evict. Now, there is help. There is help.
There's been help a while. It's just finding it.
Whoa, that just flashed weird. All right. So this is important to understand. Now, this is actually important for landlords to know that if you own a property, and tenants. Okay. Now, the National Association of Realtors got $50 billion approved. Right, was able to lobby and get $50 billion available for emergency rental assistance to help people who are in that hardship situation. Right.
Can I say now, who lobbied for it?
The National Association of Realtors.
Thank you. I just wanted to hear that.
so this is a huge win for tenants. Right. And, which is interesting because, people, oh, you're realtors, you just sell houses. No, people forget that we are, the National Association is out there to help protect home ownership and access to housing for all. Right. Which includes property owners and people who are out there to rent. Right. Any type of housing usage. And this is kind of like a, two birds with one stone type of, response here, because if the tenant's not paying the rent, right, then the landlord is going to be having good difficulty to pay that mortgage, right? And if they can't pay the mortgage, then the property could get foreclosed on, potentially, and then now the landlord loses the house, and then the tenant's going to be out on the street, right? Now, if you qualify for the emergency assistance, then you can actually get funds for up to, I believe it's 18 months. Let's see here.
And the landlords can apply for their tenants with permission.
Yeah. So you can get up to 18 months assistance that can help pay for back rent. Right. So if you apply for this now, and let's say you haven't been paying for, the past year because of, your financial situation or your hardship, you can actually get some funds that'll pay your back rent. And again, help you cover your expenses for up to 18 months, right? Now, obviously, this is great for tenants, right? But it is definitely also good for landlords, because now that the tenants are paying, the landlords can now pay those bills. The properties can be maintained better. Everybody's winning here, okay? And then this also keeps people from falling out in the street. Now, this is not just for current rental assistance. You can actually use this for homelessness assistance. People who are already homeless, they can get grants in order to get some housing. And they also have homeowner assistance. So certain homeowners that fall within the guidelines. And then there's also assistance for rural homeowners for direct loans. Okay. There's housing counseling available. So if you're having some sort of situation where you need counseling, you can apply for this. There's utility assistance available. So again, if your issue is that you're having issues paying for the utilities to live in your property, there is assistance available. So there is money out there in order to help people stay in their homes. And again, this is all because the National Association really lobbied and pushed to get this done.
And make note that for all you realtors that don't know why you pay your dues, which I hate hearing, things like this happen because we pay our dues.
Yeah.
And we're out there. You don't benefit unless you own properties and benefit from these programs, but people benefit from our paying our dues.
That's true. That's true. One of the things, like you said, I always hate that when people are like, oh, what are we paying NAR for? They don't do nothing for us. And typically the complaint after that is followed up by some sort of antitrust call for antitrust. Like, let's all band together and not use a particular company. I don't want to name anybody, but let's all band together. And the association should change the rules for everybody's got to do the same thing. And, people don't understand that the association's there in order to protect the industry, the business, and home ownership. The association is not there just to protect just what you want and your interest, because it's everybody's interests, right? And, a lot of people, I think they don't do the work to find out where their dollars are going. And that's why they don't understand what's going on there. Yeah, there's huge value in the association. Huge value in the association. All right. Hold on. I lost my list of things that we were going to go over today. All right. That was most of what I had, but I did actually want to bring something up, and this actually kind of goes to the multifamily thing. Let's talk real quick. Boom. So you remember Emerald lead testing?
Yes.
So as you know, any house built before 1978 has the possibility of lead-based paint hazards. For anybody who's out there buying or has bought recently, you'll be familiar with this because you should have been given a disclosure. You better have been given a disclosure when you purchase your property that discloses, what kind of what's the situation with the lead is, right? Now, as a homeowner, you can actually get certified in order to do certain lead work on the property. And I wanted to bring this up because this is actually a class that's coming up that Emerald Lead is offering. It's for moderate risk de-leading. Now, there are 3 levels of lead removal risk. There's low risk, moderate risk, and then high risk. All right. Now, as a homeowner, you can do low risk with just a mail-in test. You can take a class and get certified to do the moderate risk. Now, high risk, you can never do as a homeowner. You actually have to hire a licensed lead remediation company. But the reason I wanted to bring this up, because I know I do mention this to a lot of people, and a lot of times, oh yeah, I'll think about doing it, and they just, they kind of never get into it. Now, this is actually coming up, let's see here, May 22nd at Twin Hills Country Club in Long Meadow. There is contact information in here. The class is actually $225, which is, a lot cheaper than what you're going to spend to hire a lead company to do, lead abatement on your property. I can also tell you that over the last couple of years, the lead laws have been updated. So it is a little bit easier in order to do some of this stuff. So it's definitely important to look at this, especially if you own a multifamily property. Again, if you own a multifamily property, you should really consider this. If you're a handy person and you like to do work on your own properties, all right, you should understand, what you're getting into when it comes to lead paint.
And we can go golfing after. That would be fun.
Sounds like Arlene's gonna take you golfing if you take the class. Free golf.
Hey, I didn't say free. Golf ain't cheap.
Oh, you mean they got to pay extra because they're paying for you, right?
Somebody can pay for me.
Yeah, someone can pay for you.
And talk to Emerald, be like, I'll promote your class, but you're paying for me to golf around.
Yeah, right.
Deal here, yeah.
Yeah. All right, so you got anything else? We had talked about investors. You wanted to talk about investors, right?
I've had the question many times is this a good time for investors to invest in properties, multifamilies, all that? So what is your opinion on that?
It depends.
That's like my answer.
Yeah, it's always a good time to invest in the right deal, right? And in any market, there could be opportunities. I can tell you, I don't see as many multifamily investors winning offers, and that's only because there are so many owner-occupied buyers out there, and the owner-occupied buyers are typically offering more on these multifamily properties. However, I still see investors out there, doing flips, right? Buying up, that $30,000 house that came on the market in Springfield. They're buying up those properties still because the market is so crazy that they're able to purchase, rehab, and then flip it over, to somebody else, as long as the numbers are right. Now, I have seen some situations where there are cash non-investors out there that are competing. And so when you see those cash offers, typically you're thinking it's just an investor coming along to flip it. But when you have a cash non-investor, they're typically paying more than the investor because they're not looking to flip it and make money. They're looking to live in the house, right? Mm-hmm. So they're getting value and use. So they're willing to pay that extra money, So I do believe, or I would imagine that most of the investors that are getting or flipping properties are typically getting them through off MLS sales or off market sales. I know there's a few networks, investor groups, larger groups, or, coalitions. I don't know exactly how you would explain it, but, they've got networks set up where, they've got wholesalers, they've got contractors, they got whole teams of people, and they're doing mailings, mass mailings, getting people to say, I got to sell like today. And if that's the situation, you get the house for relatively cheap, and then they wholesale it to another guy who wholesales it to another guy and then that guy ends up flipping it, and there's like 3 or 4 different people who made money in the process. So it's definitely, it may be tougher.
It depends.
It depends. I would say it's and I don't even want to say it's tougher. But there's more competition, right? And which shows you that there's money to be made.
Yeah.
Right. And, so, I mean, that's kind of a statement in itself, right? I mean, there's definitely still money to be made as an investor in real estate. It's just which kind of deals are you going after, right? I mean, I've got a guy who, purchased a lot of multifamily properties with me, over the years. And he's now talking about, I'm thinking about getting into flipping a couple things. And my response was like, there's a lot of people out there doing that, but I know he's got the resources. I know he's got the team, he could do it. And now he's just, hey, if something comes along, we'll definitely start considering that. He's not thinking about buying multifamilies right now because he bought a bunch, and now he's holding out. He's hodling. That's the new word, hodl.
Yeah. You could sell them for top dollar right now. I have some
buyers. You could. Yeah. So, I mean, what is your perspective on the investors right now?
Well, my response is the same. It depends. Every house and situation is different. So you have to look at the house individually, what is being offered, what the rents are. And you were talking earlier about, people wanting to sell, especially multifamilies, but not being able to because of the evictions and stuff. Even if that were to loosen up a little bit, I mean, we're still years down the road. How long does it take to evict someone? I mean, and especially if they're contesting the eviction. And so I was just having this conversation today is, right now you kind of, if you want to invest and buy the house as is, and it depends on the situation. If the tenant hasn't paid rent in X amount of time, just know that you're going to have to be, evicting them. And it's not cheap. But if you're getting the house at a deal because the seller knows that they have these tenants not paying rent, so they're not going to sell it for top dollar, it might be worth you buying the house and then going through that eviction process and getting rid of the tenants. I mean, it's really, I guess like you said, it depends. It's really. Yeah.
You make a good point there, because last year, I mean, and like it's weird because last year I thought that there was going to be huge opportunity for investors to buy up multifamilies. Because again, you couldn't get them vacated, and even doesn't necessarily mean people weren't paying, but because again you had the eviction moratorium, it was like, can I evict? Can I not evict? And even if they're only a little bit behind, but they're paying still a little bit, is that grounds to evict them? And then, again, you add in the protection of the eviction moratorium. I thought there was going to be an opportunity for investors to come along and say, oh, you can't sell that house because you were going to want to sell it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, now I can't because I can't get the tenant out. So of course I still needed to sell it. And so now I'll just sell it for less. Exactly what you were saying. But I think what ended up happening is because there was so many unknowns, investors got there to oh yeah, we're gonna, and then they're like, hold on,
they got nervous. Yeah.
Is it too risky? Because what if this goes on for another year, and then maybe they got a great relationship with the current owner, but now I come along, who's to say that they're gonna have the same relationship with me? And it's tough.
So you make a good point there too. So last year investors were scared. We got to a point where it was like, well, we don't know which direction things are going to go and how long this is going to be. But now we're kind of seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. And the eviction moratorium's lifted, with the vaccine, and things are opening up more. So if anything, this is a prime time for investors to get in there, even if they have to evict somebody in the. Oh, you disappeared. Even if they have to go through the eviction process, it might be if they get a house at a deal and have to go through that process, it might be cheaper for them to get the house that way than pay top dollar later on and spend more on the house than they would have evicting the tenant. You lost all your light there?
I did. Hold on here.
There you go.
That's a little better.
Yeah.
What the?
Oh, I don't know what's going on there.
Hold on here. I know what I'm doing here.
You're straight out of cookies. That's what's going on.
Hold up. Oh, now I'm making it darker. You
got a weird thing going on there.
I do. That's a little bit better. Yes, as you said, I should get a shirt that says straight out of houses.
Straight out of houses.
Straight out of houses. But yes, I am straight out of cookies. I'm trying not to eat any cookies. I was offered a cookie today and I just ignored it.
Liv kept asking me, she's like, can we go to the bakery and get cookies? I'm like, we were just there yesterday.
Which, are you going to Hot Oven Cookies? Is that where you're going to get?
No, I went to Coffee Cup yesterday, but Hot Oven Cookies has.
Oh my God.
Yes, I know this. I've been in there.
Yo, if you know Hot Oven Cookies, they're in Springfield. There's
if you
2
don't
locations.
know Hot Oven Cookies, you better go find out who they are.
You need to know them. You need to know them.
They have some legit gourmet cookies that you've never had. They are,
and they sell the cookie dough too. You can just scoop it.
They are freaking amazing. Absolutely.
All right. Well, yeah. Seeing as we have no other questions, you got anything else you want to go over, or are we ready to wrap this up?
You're ready.
All right, let's wrap it up. It's Friday. I'm actually gonna go play some pitch tonight. Back to playing cards.
Nice.
And so I'm gonna go enjoy that. But yes, everybody, thank you for attending the Friday Night Forum. We'll do it again. Hopefully 2 weeks. Maybe you'll get a notice. Maybe not.
We kind of wing
it. Who knows? But we'll probably be here. All right. And if anybody looking to buy or sell a house in Massachusetts and Connecticut, you know how to get a hold of us at He Sells Houses and at Arlene the Realtor.
Wait, over here. This one.
Huh?
I keep messing up my hands. I keep doing it right there at Arlene the Realtor.
Right there. Follow us. Follow me. All right, guys. I guess we'll see you later.
All right. Peace.
Peace.